All right, I told you I would continue doing them. I'm going to deliver. So here is season 1, episode 4 review for the Wheel of Time TV show. So, yeah, this by far, I'm going to start off by saying is my favorite episode so far out of the first 4. Yeah, so I'm going to go through and do my normal ranking. So I'm going to go through the 5 different things I rank on, which is pacing, special effects, writing, action, and acting, and not in that order, but and then just kind of give it an overall rating at the end, as far as whether it's A, B, C, D, or F. So talk, and then after I'm done rating it and talking about a little bit of the nuances, kind of with a big brushstroke. I'm going to go ahead and go back and then talk about what I liked, what I disliked. And my opinion's changed a little bit over the last few weeks. It's been a while since I put one of these out, and I've been meaning to do it. I've just been busy. Life's been busy, so I finally get some time. It's a Friday night, and I decided to go ahead and film this. So I try to stay true to what my initial reaction was, but it has changed a little bit over time. More so because I've gotten heard from some such as Sarah Nakamura, and also from Rafe doing a Q&A, I think it was, about some of the nuances and some of the things that were done, and some of the explanation behind it, which helped a lot for me to get over some things I disliked about it. So with that being said, let's go right into the review. So we'll start with pacing. So this one I give a 9. This is so far the best paced episode. Just from start to finish. It has 3 different, character lines or arcs we're following. We have what I'm calling the Egwene and Perrin arc, and then we have the Mat and Rand arc. And then we have the Nynaeve, Lan, and Moiraine arc. So I'm going to break them down each one, and especially towards the last half, and talk about those individually. But first, let's just talk about the pacing, which for all 3 arcs were pretty good. There didn't seem to be that clunkiness that some of the previous episodes had a little bit. And there was not one particular scene I can point out and saying, like, yeah, that scene didn't fit. It was paced wrong. It felt slow or too fast. It felt appropriate for what it was. So moving on to acting. This is the first time I'm going to give it a 10. I think the first couple of episodes I reviewed, there were just a few characters that just didn't deliver their lines right. It seemed kind of forced. Everything seemed really, really good. The acting all around was phenomenal. There were some standouts. Marie Doyle Kennedy, who plays what's her name? The Tuatha, Rain, and Isla. Plays Isla amongst the Tinkers, and she did a great job with some monologues and just the talking there. Moving on to Mat and Rand, I think Tom did a great job here. Mat and Rand did as well, but especially Tom. And then moving on to Nynaeve and Moiraine. I mean, Nynaeve. Do I say more? Do I say less? Say less. So let's move on to special effects. This is the 10 out of 10 as well. Whereas other times they had a lot of Trollocs in it, and that was really what was holding it back, was that Trollocs. And having those little glitchy moments in the background. Here we didn't have that. It was a lot more just the weaves and the magic. I feel like they spent a lot of FX budget on that. There are a few things it might have brought it down to a 9. I mean, I guess I give this a 9.8 because there are a few little things I didn't like, especially during this battle scene. When Logain's army comes in, there's a few things there that are not the best, but they're not bad. But overall, we'll talk about this in a bit. That final scene, and I'll talk about this in the second half a lot more. But yeah, the special effects there were just fantastic. Writing, I gave it a 9. Because in the reason why I gave it a 9, there was a few things they did with the writing and a few things they did to change the story that I was worried were going to cause some plot holes or change too much. I'm not worried about them changing from the books. That's at this point I'm fine with that. I'm fine with a new adaptation that's a different turning of the wheel, whatever you want to call it. I'm not trying to get like a book purist on this, but there's a few things that just worry me if they try to, I guess, introduce these concepts in a different way later. And then also watching these little shorts that they're having. If you've not checked those out, go check them out. It's the X-ray content. They're animated shorts, and they kind of go dive into some of the lore and some of the things around the background of Wheel of Time, and it kind of helps the show. So there's a few things that I thought were a little clunky there. But I still gave the special effects a 10, or still gave the writing a 9, just because overall, I think it was lines were delivered well. There's a few parts that got the tear ducts going a little bit, a couple times. So well writing, 9 out of 10, and then action, of course, give it a 9 as well. Would have given it a 10 if it wasn't for that one scene with Logan's army invading, and I'll talk more about that and what I disliked, because that's probably the one thing and if that's the only thing that I dislike, there might be a little more, but pretty good at action. In fact, 9's the highest rating I've given so far on action. I think before that I gave it 8 on episode 2. So all in all, so this got like a 94%, out of 100. Gives it a solid A. And my ratings, they're a little skewed differently than what American grade scales would be. But like a 96 or higher would be an A+. This gets a 94, which is an A. The A+ kind of, I don't know if that even exists. It's a strong, strong A. I mean, this is not close to an A-. At 91 to 96 is in the A. Anything below 91 would be an A-. So this is definitely in that strong A. And the first A I've given for the show. So yeah, so far, like I said, enjoying the show, but let's go ahead and go back and talk about things I really, really, really liked and things I disliked. And we'll start with Perrin and Egwene amongst the Tinkers. I know when I first got introduced to Tinkers, I made fun of him in my last video. Said it seemed like the Knights of Zednee in the forest there. I didn't really like it. It seemed a little clunky, seemed a little bit of force acting, but really here I really enjoyed it. I just and Maria Doyle Kennedy stole the show as Isla. Just the speeches she gave to Perrin about the axe, and then once they got to the camp, and they sit down, and Perrin and Isla start talking. She talks about losing her daughter, and even though those aren't exactly the words that come from the book, it still gets that same feel and kind of gives more of a reason on why the Tinkers are the way they are. And I appreciated it. It was a very, very real moment. At least it felt that way. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel cheesy. It felt like a really heartfelt moment, and just very well delivered. Very much enjoyed it. Honestly, the only thing I didn't like about all that was it just was really rushed. It felt like, and maybe that's why I gave the pacing a little bit less, as a 9 as well. I wish they spent more time, but obviously it's a TV show. We can't spend all this time with Tinkers, because that'd take up a lot of screen time, and I get it. So let's move on to Mat and Rand. Things I liked, things I disliked. Once again, this, with Tom, when they get to the farm, and they say in the show it's not Elsie, because Elsie is older, but it is the Grenwells, that farm scene from Eye of the World, done a little differently. The Fae does not attack there, so kind of combining two different places. And if you haven't read Eye of the World yet, sorry, going to give you a little bit of spoilers right here from the book. So if you want to mute for like 5 seconds, I recommend it. Otherwise, stick around. We'll talk a little bit about this scene. So they're combining two, basically. You have the Grenwells and you have Whitebridge, and they're kind of meshing those two together. It was in Whitebridge where Tom told both Mat and Perrin the story of Owen. I think they did a really good job here. The whole imagery of Owen slitting his throat was just a really good way of showing like how downtrodden someone is that's been gentled. Also set up a little foreshadowing for this episode, which I appreciate. That kind of keep into those Robert Jordan elements of foreshadowing there. And I'm not going to tell you the other foreshadowing that happened in this scene, but there was something there where they name a character that comes later in the series, and just, it was such an adorable way of doing it, and just got me all yay. So yeah, And if you know, you know. If you don't know, just keep this WAFO, watch and find out, because I'm sure they're going to do it. And it's going to be fun. So, but yeah, so, and then of course the ending with Rand dreaming. There's a lot of symbolism in that dream. I can go back and pick apart, probably do a whole video just on that. I'm not going to. I enjoyed it for what it was. The guy with the flames, I'm not going to say his name yet. In his eyes, still don't necessarily like the way he's being portrayed or looks, but that's okay because Rand wakes up to find Mat gone and he's everybody's murdered. But it seems that it was a fade. And actually, if you look at Mat's blade when he pulls out the Shadow Logoth dagger and points it up at the hayloft and says, "I see you," his blade's clean. So. I know it's speculation. I know I think it's supposed to be, did Mat do it? I think it's the Fade. And then Tom fighting the Fade, of course, was awesome. We leave not knowing whether or not Tom survived that attack. A Fade seems to be pretty badass, but Tom seems to be pretty good with those daggers too. So we will see. And that's how we leave that group. And now we get to the last group, which of course I saved best for last. We get to Lan, Moiraine, and Nynaeve. You get this really, really interesting scene where Liandrin starts trying to bond with Nynaeve, and Nynaeve's having none of that shit. None of it at all. Like, no, you're a snake.
I'm a snake.
I love that. You're a snake. Anyway, and then Lan comes over and is like, well, you can come by my fires if you want. And she does. They go hang out. They get drunk. You see the polyamorous relationship, which is, some people might get upset with that, saying like, oh my God, that's not in the books. Kind of it is. The Greens have multiple warders, and they definitely heavily imply that they're all shacking up. At least the Greens are. What do you think? They take turns? Or what do you think happens there? I'm not opposed to that at all. Actually, I think that fits with the book. Have you not read the book? Go back. It's fine. And there's a little bit of dialogue between Moiraine and Alanna there about the warders and how Greens take multiple warders. Warders. She says, I can never just have one, which is definitely a take on that. And then you get the scene where Lan's, praying. You get a little bit about Malkir. It's just a tiniest snidbit. But then also, I love that they did the whole thing with the Old Tongue with Nynaeve, which was great. I love just incorporating some of those elements into the story to keep that heart and that lore of Wheel of Time still going really strong in the show. And then, of course, going to the final scene of the action sequence with the battle, and then, of course, Logain escaping and then almost killing everybody, and then Nynaeve healing and then gentling. So let's talk about things I liked about that sequence and things I didn't. So things I didn't like, the battle. I mentioned that already. It just, I think other content creators have said this as well. It felt this way to me as well. There just wasn't enough people. And I understand that's, it takes a lot to hire a bunch of actors, but if Logain had been like conquering entire nations, like Gillidan, and had got the king behind him, I just felt like it'd be a bigger force than like 20 guys running through the woods. I just feel like they could have done a little better with that. The action there was okay as well. But it just wasn't, it could have been grander. It could have been more epic, I think. Now, granted, none of that was from the books at all. Another spoiler alert. This entire episode, although there's some elements, like I said, combining the Grenwell farm with Whitebridge and some of the other things, and amongst the Tinkers, those things, there's definitely things that happened in both those scenes that definitely came from the book. But the Moiraine, Logain, Nynaeve, and Lan plot line is part of expanding Logain's role. Rafe said he's going to do it, and I'm here for it because I've always loved Logain. So, and just love that whole entire thing. And they did a couple things a little bit differently, but that's okay because that still keeps not major plot problems. Some of the things, so the big thing is the battle. That's the big one I didn't like. Going to Logain itself. At first view, I did not like when Nynaeve went Super Saiyan, like the Dragon Ball Z, like Goku or whatever, going, like, yeah. Love that. Don't get me wrong. That was awesome. I didn't like Logain's reaction. They just had said we can't see the weaves. Males can't see females. Females can't see males. And now Logain's reacting to it. And it took me a while to kind of get okay with that. A lot of that had to do with hearing Rafe and Sarah Nakamura talk about it. They said, he was reacting to everything flying around the room and her hair standing up, and it had been very obvious. The other thing as well, and this is going to be spoiler, there is something about men and women that is a little bit different as well. So if Logain's picked up on that, he would have been able to know. Now the power, it probably just been around what was happening. Everyone being healed in the entire room, probably things being thrown everywhere, hair flying up in the air. He would have seen all that. The weaves themselves, no, but would have reacted, somewhat. And then, if things are flying around the room, sorry, I hit my mic. Shielding yourself, it might not be from the light, just from things, objects in the room. The other thing was Karini, I guess is how they pronounce it here. That was a little different. Reacting to when Logain threw the black male bolts at them, and she threw the shield up. Now, I justified that immediately, saying she didn't see them, but she had a shield going. She felt the shield break through and tried to guess as fast as possible where felt she could feel the shield break in different places and knew something was coming. And that would be on point there. Some people try to speculate that like when Stepan went and tried to use the axes on Logain, that you can't cut through the shield. I don't think that's what you were seeing there. You saw Logain going the other way and pressing against with his magic. So it wasn't interacting with the weaves. It was interacting with Logain's magic pressing out, which eventually shatters the axe, throws shrapnel everywhere. And yeah, so those things were things I saw complaints about, and I just saw it completely different than everybody else did, I guess. Or not everyone else, but some people did. So that was all fine. In fact, just thought that action sequence was a lot of fun. Besides that one part, but once it was more explained, liked it all. That, amazing. But yeah, so that's kind of, my review. Like I said, it's an A. I mean, this is a great episode. Probably the best so far. Can't say that much negative. It really comes down to that one battle scene, and it's not even that big of a deal. It's just I wish they had more people, and that's a budget thing. It's also a trying to get people to choreograph a fight can sometimes be hard, and you don't want to bring CGI for too much CGI and CGI people in or something like that. That just looks dumb. So with working with what you got, it got the point across. It still had its moments of Nynaeve shivving a guy, which I thought was just badass. So anyways, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think. I know we're a couple weeks late, but in case you still want to check out more reviews of old episodes that like people are like, wow, that was like a long time ago, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm busy. I told you I'm busy. So anyways, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments. And I will try to do more of these on a more timely manner. So more to come. And until next time, guys. Peace.